What?
This is a great question because I forgot when I originally set up my folders to include a projects file the first time I ever did this. And so it's just a carryover from my first mistake. The first time I ever did this, I started 0, 1 footage, 0, 2, and I went down the list. And then I was just saving my projects in the general folder because I was like, oh, I'll just have one video project. There's my Camtasia file, or there's my Premiere Pro, or whatever video editor you're using. It's just going to be one. It's never just one. There's always more than one.
but so, to Justin's question, the zeros gives you the control over the order of what you put them in. That's so 0, 1.
Yes.
But if you end up with more than 10, right? Like 10, 1, so you're just trying to keep the control of the order of your folders. And so that way, ultimate flexibility in terms of what you want to do. But I think, Andy, are you also kind of going through these and saying these are the things like, these are the order that you're most likely to use them or need them in when you're actually going to make your video?
It's both priority order for me and like chronologically. I'm going to set up a project first. I'm going to then get my footage ready to go, or screen recordings, not always. Like this is a carryover from when I did weddings, in years past. Footage was always the first thing collected. Music would come later. And so for me, it was chronologically. I had the footage, then I'd need to get the audio. Images would be, after that. And some projects aren't going to have all these things either. Like I would say the majority of my work, the scripts I keep online. Sometimes if I'm handing them off to a vendor or a third party or another editor, I'll remember to download the script and include it in the file, because otherwise it's just me who's accessing it. I know it's online. I know where to find it. But it's good to keep all those things together in case you ever hand off the project. But yeah, it's priority and, the order of when I come to that part of the project for me.
Yeah, so I'm going to come at this from a little different perspective because I agree. I have lots of folders that are projectized like that. But I think the goal is get yourself organized so that you can do your work quickly and efficiently and whatever makes sense for you. And I love Andy's structure, and I've used that structure myself for bigger projects. For smaller projects, I just dump stuff in a folder because I don't have 20 different files. I have like 4, and it's not hard to get organized. But the key is get organized so that way when you're in production or when you're filming stuff or you're editing stuff, you don't have to go spend time. I spend so much time trying to go out onto like a network drive or look on an old hard drive to find stuff. That's what's going to get bogged down. You're going to get out of flow. And so just come up with a structure that works and be ready for that so that way you can move through your project. That's the goal, to get the project done.
Well, Justin has a comment before you. Yeah, I was just going to say my other thing is when I did it alphabetically, video was, 01 video would always show up last for V. Oh, you can see paint on my sleeve. That's cool. The V would always show up at the bottom of my folder, and it was usually the first thing I needed. So it drove me crazy that it was all out of order because that's, I'm not obsessive compulsive necessarily, but sometimes I can be with these things.
Well, again, for me, and like, I'll be honest, I have never used a folder structure for any video I've ever made. So I'm gonna admit that right here to everybody. But even just having the folders in place starts to make sense to me as far as like, I don't have to start from scratch to think about what to bring in for my video, right? Like I know, I need my TechSmith logo, or I need these, and so it ties back into the other conversations we were having about planning and making sure you get your video planned out. And this is like to me anyway, as somebody who hasn't really done it, like, this would be the final step in like actually having a place to then house all those things that you have pre-planned. And then you can go forth and be, like Matt was saying, be faster with your video creation. Because sometimes like, even if I have a script, it's like, I haven't thought out of the graphics or thought about, what this sort of screen casting I might want to put in there. And then I just hop into Camtasia and I'm trying to make the video.
Yeah, that's another good point too, right? We're talking about before you hit record and what graphics do you need before you hit record? Are you going to be showing them while you're recording, or is this something you can put in afterward? If we're recording a software interface, and it's software that we use all the time. Let's say I'm recording Snagit, right? I want to show someone how to do something in Snagit, and I've got my recent trays of other Snagit images I've created at the bottom, and it's kind of a mess. I can go through and clear that out before I start recording, or even just close the tray so that when I record, my audience is focused on what I want them to be focused on, not on all my old work that wasn't intended to be shown. So it's things like that where you kind of clean up your user interface. I know Matt's talked a lot in the past about like clean up your desktop kind of background. Do you want family pictures as your desktop background while you're recording, or do you want kind of a generic, Windows or Mac, whatever it is, background, so it doesn't distract from your message?
Hide the extensions, hide the apps, hide all the stuff that you don't want people looking at, because I'm a nosy person, I think, and I will look at all the things that you've got open. Like, what programs are they using? Because one, I'm generally interested in. Maybe I'm like, well, if they're using that, maybe I should use that. But I think if that's not what you want me to focus on, don't show me that, because it's like, I'm always looking for Camtasia in any screen recording. Are they using Camtasia? Are they using that? Because I want to know.
Yeah. Well, it's just it can be distracting too, right? Like as a viewer of that content, you are automatically down another trail, trying to figure out what's on their desktop there, right? Or what icon, what folders are back there, or things like that. So I think even just as a viewer of that content, and I do the same thing in a myriad of ways, where it's like, oh, what's that other thing? Any of those little things that you may unknowingly put into your video that could be a distraction, get them out of there.
Yeah. I talked about that in I think it was the last time we spoke, where I brought up my big French word of mise en scène. When you're recording and you're on screen and you've got anything in your background is a distraction. I've even got a notebook next to me. I just noticed was in the widescreen. I'm going to move out of the way now. But like, you're in control of anything that shows up on camera. That's true of your desktop too. You're in control of it. So hide it. Anything you don't want shown. In fact, sometimes when we record our screen, we won't show the top bar of the screen. It'll show that I'm recording using Camtasia, but it also shows like the date and time, and that kind of dates it. And so those are the kind of things you can hide once you're recording too.
I was going to say, it's funny as you bring that up, like I'm even thinking like the internal videos I make, right? Like I'm trying to show somebody a Google Analytics dashboard or something. Like I always hide my tabs and my bookmarks. And because again, like I don't want that to distract anybody. Like, well, what's Justin got on his bookmarks? Like,
how many tabs does he have open, right? Justin?
You don't want to know how many tabs I have open. You don't want to know how many tabs I have open, because I'll get that comment too. But yeah, it's like trying to limit those distractions to where and even in the shot of Google Analytics, I might even try to blow that up as big as I can to get any of the other stuff that's distracting compared to what I'm actually trying to show, which is like the data point. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that as far as like cleaning up what's on the actual screen as well.
I do. I mean, I think if you're doing screen recording, best practice is that you're going to run through that process at least once, because a couple things happen, right? Like you might be surprised at how the screen changes in ways that are unexpected, like things might pop up or something might cover something up that you didn't just plan for. And so you really want to just walk through that process once if you can, to see all the things that might get in the way. And also just to try to look at it from a fresh perspective, like how can I'm going to use my big word for the day is cognitive overload, right? Like if you've got lots of things happening on the screen and you're not helping me to focus on the most important thing, I'm going to start that takes its toll, and it's going to start being kind of heavy to pay attention to. So you want to try to reduce all the things that don't matter and really help the individual to focus. Now, some of this might be done in post-production, but if you can do as much as possible during the kind of the recording process, you're going to go a long way. And I was thinking, as I've heard you both talking, it's like what needs to be repeated every single time I'm going to make a video, and how can I make that just super scalable, like repeatable, and so I don't forget, because I know I always forget this stuff, right? I'll start recording and then something will pop up and I'm like, oh, I know better. And so it's just like, how can I help myself to not make those mistakes? Because ultimately that takes time. In fact, I started recording this morning and I just got to a point, I'm like, I just have to start. I think it was about 5 minutes in. I'm like, because it's a longer presentation, I was like, I just have to start over now, because it's thrown me off. I wasn't expecting it. I had to pause in a weird way. And so I think just kind of overall, like all this stuff is like find repeatable, scalable things that you can just do and make your life easier. But go through the practice run.
Absolutely. And it helps to know yourself and your, not just your strengths, but your weaknesses. Like for me, I know there's certain things I tend to forget. And so, you know, in the video recording studio at TechSmith, I have a sticky note on my set where I, you know, especially right now where we're not using it frequently. So when I go in every time, I've got this sticky note just left where I need, and it reminds me, don't forget to take a picture for the thumbnail, because I'm going to need to have a thumbnail for this video. And I don't want it to be me with my mouth agape as I'm in the middle of talking. Right, exactly, because that's what it ends up being, or one of these open teeth smiles because I'm actually talking. So I take a picture of the, you know, for the thumbnail before I start recording. I always set my white balance. Again, we talked about that a little bit. But I also have a note that says, oh gosh, what is it? It's take pictures behind the scenes, because I like to post those to my personal LinkedIn profile of kind of, you know, what I'm working on and things that I've learned, lessons I've learned. So it's just even take some pictures for yourself. So it's all those kind of things that I know I would tend to forget.
I'm going to do that right now, guys. Let's, you know.
Oh, excellent.
There you go. Oh, there you go.
See?
Heck yeah.
And now he has something to post, because now you need to write it on a sticky note if you're going to forget every time.
Right.
But yeah,
it's funny because
oh,
I was going to say it's the same thing for, and again, not in the studio, but for, you know, I can't tell you the amount of times I've been in recording a video, and then especially now with everybody remote, like you get a ping, and you know it's up in the screen, and you get the noise, right, or whatever, and so it's like the basic thing of like turn off notifications or turn on do not disturb, like little things like that, because if you get all the way into this video and you're almost done